Welcome everyone. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Celeste, and we're the founders of the Somatica Institute of Sex and Relationship Coaching. Today we're going to talk about how to talk sexy in a way that will turn you on and land for your partner.
And we will touch really important points like why is it important to know how to talk sexy? How can it benefit your relationship? And how it will benefit your practice.
So one of my favorite questions that Danielle taught me early on in our work together was, why bother? What does talking sexy do for us? And I don't think it's any cliche to say that our brain is our biggest sex organ. Really getting our brains turned on and turning the heat up with our psychological arousal by kind of like knowing what to say and how to say it and when to say it, that touches a person's deepest desires has a huge arousal impact. So it's really, really helpful to know how to talk sexy if you want to get someone as turned on as possible.
It also really helps people to stay engrossed in the experience the whole time, because sometimes I think especially women can get a little bit like more like thinking about other things and get distracted because of the way that we're brought up, not getting a lot of permission to stay engrossed in sex. So talking dirty and adding some things that can like, and we'll tell you exactly what, can really help people stay immersed in sex or bring them back if they got a little bit off.
And finally, one of my favorite motivators, orgasm. I know for me, sometimes it's like there can be all sorts of things happening to my body, but a certain key phrase or, words brought in at a certain moment or in a certain way can be the thing that takes me over the edge over and over again. In order to know what to say, whether it's like erotic talk, sexy talk, dirty talk, sweet talk, you have to understand a little bit about the person that you're talking to. And when you bring in sexy talk, sometimes there needs to be like a bridge. Like you might have one set of things that you really love to say or love to hear, and then your partner has a set of things that they love to say and love to hear, and you hope that there's a lot of overlap. But you need to find out like what's something that's going to work for both of you in the conversation.
I just loved how you said you hope it overlaps, but guess what? Many times actually does not overlap, and therefore it is really important to check out.
I think of myself as a desire detective. We can become self-detectives. So really starting to see like, what are the things that turn us on the most? And what are some words or phrases that might get us really excited? And then we want to become a desire detective for other people as well. And this is where I think you can pick up clues by the things that are interesting or exciting to them, or the way that they talk. Like, does your partner really into like fast, flashy cars or something? Or other sort of like maybe symbols of power, then what turns them on might be to be in a powerful role. Like if you say something to them that's like, I want you to do whatever you want to me, or something that gives them the sense, oh, I'm in charge here. Maybe they like flowers. Then they might want to hear a lot more like love erotic talk as opposed to like hardcore dirty talk. Or maybe they're like a nature lover, and if they're a nature lover, they might want to hear like what it feels like you describing what it's going to feel like when like a bead of water ripples across their nipple.
And again, like you can assume, but it's also really, really super important to check, because assuming is not enough. Sometimes you think, for example, the flashy car can be power, but it can also be adventure. Figuring out what feels good to the other person is super important. Look at talking sexy as if it's a seduction. There's like a seduction pace and plot. So you start more peripheral, and then you slowly get more and more to the center, while many people don't even like the explicit things unless it's really, really close to orgasm. And some people love the explicit things much earlier.
The question is, how do you handle it if your partner gets turned on by hearing something that doesn't feel authentic for you to say? For example, I belong to you. If you feel like, wow, I really like a lot of freedom in my life, then you might need to actually have a conversation outside of the sexual experience and say, I might be able to find a way where I could say I belong to you, as long as we have this container around it in our minds that's like, I belong to you during this set of hours where we are playing in this particular way. And that might make you feel free enough to say something like that so that you don't feel like, oh, now I'm like obligating. And you also might feel uncomfortable if somebody wants to belong to you, like, woo, that's a lot of responsibility. so
we didn't drive you around.
You could have like worries about it on both sides. And if those are your worries, you have to say like, okay, so we can play this as a sexual fantasy, but we have to separate that out from like, this is actually how we are living our day-to-day life, because this is what makes me nervous about that. And then you might be able to come from an authentic place when you say it.
And you can do it slowly. It doesn't have to be all in one sitting. And I do love the process of exploration over time, when you kind of like try something and play with it and see how that feels. And then you add something in addition. Like, I don't want to think that there's a pressure. Like, people feel like, okay, now I'm going to go to this and I'm going to figure it all out. And I have this task and I'm going to know the whole story. But the fun thing is actually to break it down and to see few words and how does that feel. And then like get the feedback and see how much you can build over time.
But that certain words in our society have more intensity to them because they're taboo, right? Like, you're not supposed to say it, or it makes it feel like you're naughty, or it's higher intensity. And some people might like to use those kinds of words, maybe especially if they felt like, oh, I had to be so nice all the time in my life growing up, or I have to be so nice around everyone everywhere. And when I'm in the bedroom, I just want to be naughty, dirty, and nasty, and play with that kind of energy. And like on the other side
savage.
Well, savage.
Dirty, nasty. Yeah.
And the other side of it might be that somebody doesn't want to hear those very explicit, overt sexual comments, because it makes them feel, because we have these ideas in our culture that are sort of very negative around sex. So some people are afraid to feel used, or they feel like nasty, or, like they have bad connotations around that sort of dirty playfulness. And they might want to feel something that's more like, loved or spiritual or cared for or precious or natural. And there isn't a right way. It's just like, is it a way that's compatible between you and your partner that you both can feel good about and enjoy? And I think especially, unfortunately, the way that women are socialized is often we're told like it's bad to be too sexual, or it's bad if like people might just be wanting to use you or objectify you for your sexuality and might not want you in any other way. And so women lose like some agency around sex, and they also are like on the lookout for like, oh, they're just trying to use me, or they just care about me for sex. And so those are the kinds of things that you just don't want to trigger inside of your partner. So it's better to have a good idea of what gets to them.
Yeah, that is actually also very relevant to if you're having sex. How do you navigate sex talk with someone who's different from you? Either there's a language barrier. I remember having sex with this French guy. It was great. I just wanted to hear him speak French. And I thought that I'm going to be so turned on the whole time because like the French would be enough. But no, I actually needed to understand the translation. So I got very frustrated about that. So it's a little bit like that. You talk about, well, you try things, you talk with people about what would work and what wouldn't work. There are cultural differences between how people feel comfortable saying different things. So you really, communication is key. And when we say communication is key, what we're doing now is really like giving you options and things to talk about, right? For example, when's a good time to start doing the sexy talk? If I jump right away to I want to impregnate you, is this like right away? Are you ready for that right away? Or where do I need to start, right? Like those things are very personal and there's no right or wrong. It's really about compatibility and where people are in their, arousal. And also it gives you a little bit an idea of how long it takes your partner to get aroused as opposed to you. And it teaches you so much. The sexy talk can teach you so much about each other and what turns you on and help you like dive into your core desires.
I think I've always wanted to feel really, really special, important. And if I can feel super special and like I'm the most amazing, then I also like to play a little bit with the feeling of like being baby girl or being used or being a good girl. But I need that special feeling first. So like if somebody tells me, oh, Celeste, you are incredible, or I feel so lucky to be with you, or God, you're so amazing. I've never seen an ass like that before in my life. It's the most beautiful ass I've ever seen. Like, those are the kinds of things that make me feel really special. And then if I feel that sense of that container of like, I'm super special to you, then it might be like, now be a good girl and get on your knees and spread your ass for me or something, where I'm being told what to do and then like approved of for doing it well. But I need the container of that specialness and adoration to feel comfortable in that.
Me being vulnerable and sharing my desires and sharing what I want to hear is very vulnerable for me. So I want to know that my partner is going to take really good care of me, how much he likes to expose me. And that's like, oh, I get so turned on thinking about it.
Like, so if I was your partner, like what would be like, what are two good sentences?
Sometimes in the moment, like I lose all the words and then he might need to try it out. Okay, based on our topics that we know each other, right? Like,
and I do think it takes some trial and error, right? Like there needs to be a way for your partner to say, oh, I really like it when you say this sentence, but could you say it a little bit slower? Or, you know, I like that, but like that word didn't totally work for me. And I think sometimes there's certain words, like for me, that seem a little bit generic or cheesy that you might want to avoid. For some people, they will love them. But, you know, if it's like something that everybody says all the time, like baby or sweetie, or that might be, you know, that might feel like it makes some, if you can make something that's a little bit more special. Like for me, it's completely different to be called baby versus baby girl. I love being called baby girl.
You don't have to figure it out by yourself. You can ask your partner, what will turn you on? Is this something that you really like to hear? What feels like new now? This idea that we have to figure it out all by ourselves is unnecessary. So great question here. How can you incorporate sexy talk when it's not in a sexual setting? And we hope you do, because there are wonderful ways to start like doing some turn on before a sexual activity happens or before you even like do formal seduction. You can do it. The more you know someone, the more you can say things. So for example, one of the things that I really love is when my partner tells me, I have my eyes on you. And that can be like completely, you know, like G-rated. And I'm just like, ooh, because it like brings the whole experience of his eyes on me, which is like so hot for me. So yeah. So you can do it while texting, you can do it while talking on the phone.
Humor can be sexy, but can humorous talk during sex be sexy talk? Some people really like play, like that's one of the things that turns them on. And to sort of feel like sex is just a light, fun, silly thing that we do together. And it especially if they maybe feel like their early life was very like heavy or intense, and you know, and they're like, I don't want things to be heavy. I don't want them to be like hard or challenging. So in those instances, I think people might be like very much open to some humor during sex or playfulness or laughter. I think you just have to watch out about heading into the silly zone, because then you might lose the arousal.
And what if you feel inhibited to talk in the way that you want to? So first, it's great that you know how you want to talk. It's a great beginning, I think, because I think many people don't even know how they want to talk, and they kind of sometimes land on it, or they become very flexible or work with whatever happens. I think it's really like trying small, like trying something. It's like breaking through the crust of discomfort around it and trying something tiny that you might feel that doesn't risk much, and see how that feels. When you look at your partner, what do you feel towards them? And then just say it in an honest, connected, letting yourself feel connection to your eroticism and to your arousal. And that's a great way to start.
Because this is such a good question about different core desires, or like when people want different things sexually. When one partner is talking about what turns them on and the other is talking about what turns them on, but the topic that is being talked is different to the other person's topic. Like one person is bondage talking and the other person is sensual talking. So how do you become multilingual and weave those together? I think it's a decision about whether you want to like do bridging, where you weave the two different kinds of talk together and see if there's some way that they can overlap and speak to each other. You probably have to have a conversation if this is going on. You have to see like, oh, it seems like I'm a little bit more into the sensuality side of things and you're a little bit more into bondage. Can we find like a sensual bondage experience? That would be bridging. Or do we want to take turns and have like a total bondage night and then a total sensual night, and more have the different themes be separated out, and maybe both. Maybe sometimes you do them separate and sometimes you weave them together. So it's just good to kind of talk through that with your partner so that you can just say, hey, look, see, you know, nothing wrong with it. It happens all the time. Seems like there's different things that really turn us on. Let's figure out how to like bridge those or take turns with them.
And that's also relevant to the question about if one person like dirty talk and the other person like romance talk. That can actually be something that bridged also in terms of when you do what. We do have the book Coming Together, which is super helpful, talking about giving a lot of examples and talking about all the ways that help people figure out what turns them on, as well as how to do bridging and how to take turns and what to do if nothing works. It was wonderful to spend time here with you. Hope to see more of you. If you like it, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is right here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.